protest that students and lecturers are taking part in central London to protest against the increase in tuition fees at university. Talking about that at Prime Minister's Question Time today, current president of the Student Union at Cambridge University is in our central London studio, where the protest is just taking place now. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Rahul, tell us about the protest and also what you think about the demonstrations that turned a little bit nasty in places.
I didn't see most of the nasty stuff. I was at the front of the demonstration, and from what I saw, it was actually really positive. We had a really encouraging turnout. Reports are saying up to 50,000 students, which I think shows the very real anger and frustration that students are currently feeling against the government and its proposals about university funding.
Okay. Who are the people who were taking part today?
We had people from up and down the country. That's students from every university, Oxbridge. We teamed up with Anglia Ruskin, which is the other university in Cambridge, to work together to get as many students down as possible. There are also university lecturers and other members of the public who are on board on what we're saying.
What is it that you're most concerned about? The government, the coalition government, is saying that no money will have to be paid back until a student has qualified, got their degree, and is earning enough money to be able to pay back their fees.
I think there are two problems. I think the first is access. Cambridge has been working very hard to try and widen participation and try and encourage as many people as possible to apply to it. But a change in policy like this means that whole groups of students will be put off a university education because of cost. Aversity to debt is an incredibly powerful problem. Secondly, it's also a very cynical view of how education should be funded. This government is saying that education isn't a social good, it's something that should be paid for in a private transaction by graduates.
If every department is having to cut deep, that's what we're being told by the present government, then why should the the university's budget be any different?
For the same reason that the health budget is different. Education is a vital social good. It does improve our country's productivity. It makes us richer culturally and socially and improves our economy, especially at a time of economic difficulty. We need to make sure that our universities remain competitive, and the way to do that is by funding them properly and through a well-funded state education system.
Okay. What difference will it make, do you think, if the vote is in favour, when it does eventually come, if the vote is in favour of an increase in the cap on tuition fees, what difference will it make practically?
I think it could well turn people away from applying to university. £9,000 is a trebling of the current tuition fee level. That's a vast increase and will affect people's perception of whether it's worth going to university. And that's a perception that should only be affected by what they want to do and what their abilities are, rather than their ability to pay.
Should it be a right or should it be a privilege to go to university?
I think it should be a right. If you have the ability and you want to go, you should be able to go to university.
And what if other people are not in a position to be able to fund that? When I say that, I mean the rest of society, with more and more hundreds of thousands of people likely to lose their jobs as a result of the latest cuts that we heard from the Comprehensive Spending Review. What then?
There are very divided views on whether these cuts are necessary now in the first place. So I think the government should be looking at implementing a much fairer system of budget deficit reduction. And I certainly think that education should be one of its priorities when it's trying to work out what should be protected.
Who do you think is responsible for the situation that students have found themselves in today? Is it the Prime Minister? Is it the Liberal Democrats?
I think that responsibility aside, it's the entire government and all MPs who have the responsibility to make sure that things don't turn out the way that we're worried that they're going to. Especially the Liberal Democrats, who all promised, Nick Clegg promised it in Cambridge. He went to my college, he promised to vote against any increase in tuition fees. If he goes back on that promise, he will be held to account for it.
Is it the previous government's responsibility, perhaps, for burdening us with the debt mountain that we have?
As far as I can tell, I don't think any government could have coped with the current situation in another way. The Tories and the Liberal Democrats haven't come out with better ways that they would have dealt with the government under Labour. All they've done is come out with attacks and ways that they're now going to cut Labour's budget deficit.
If these fees had been in place when you first started at university, what difference would it have made to you?
I think it certainly would have made me think about it a lot more. It might well have put me off, and especially if we move to a marketised education system with Cambridge charging more than another university, it might have affected my university choice.
OK. Rahul, thanks very much indeed. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
So quite a demonstration going on in central London as we speak. Tens of thousands of students and lecturers taking part in